In this episode, we're talking all about Facebook CBO, or the Facebook Advertising Campaign Budget Optimization option. What it is, why you should care, if you should even care, and everything you need to know about it so you can make sure you're getting the absolute most from your advertising dollars. Let's get to it. Hey there, my name is Adam Erhart, and you're watching The Modern Marketing Show, where we help you get more leads, customers, and sales by making way better marketing. So if that's something you're into, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Alright, so before we dive into the nitty-gritty details of what exactly CBO, or Campaign Budget Optimization, really is, it's first important to understand that this really isn't that much of a switch from what they've traditionally done with ad set optimization. So really all we're doing here is we're kind of moving the budgeting aspect where we used to set it per ad set and moving it to the campaign level. That's kind of it. Now obviously the devil's in the details, and there are nuances here that you're going to want to pay attention to so that you can make sure that you're getting the most from your advertising dollars. But the real high level 30,000 foot overview is really just essentially that. We're now optimizing at the campaign level rather than the ad set level, as the name kind of implies. As the name definitely implies. Pretty much the name says exactly what it's doing. Now the argument from Facebook on why they're making this switch is essentially to benefit the advertisers. Of course, right? You see, by making the switch, they're claiming that it's going to free up the advertisers to spend more time on the things that really matter, like designing new creative and optimizing landing pages, instead of kind of focusing their time on the granular budget and optimization level. Now, whether this plays out or not is yet to be seen, but we are actually seeing some pretty good results in the early stages of CBO, which is why it's worth talking about here, probably worth testing out in your campaigns. Now, for those control freaks among us, it is a bit of a scary thought to kind of give a little more power to Facebook and allow them to sort of spread out and optimize your budget across different ad sets rather than you maintaining control. But in a lot of instances, this is actually a good choice, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And in some cases, you're going to want to maintain control all for yourself. So first off, how do you even use Campaign Budget Optimization, or CBO? Well, it's actually really simple. In fact, all you really need to do is go to the campaign and choose On. And that's it. Now, when you turn it on, what it's going to do is essentially take your campaign budget and the total budget you've set for this campaign and start divvying it up between your different ad sets that you've got nested underneath your campaign. So for nice, easy numbers, let's say you've got a daily budget of $30. Well, if you've got 3 ad sets in this campaign, it's going to essentially give $10 to each different ad set, at least initially. But where things get tricky is that Facebook is going to use its algorithm, it's going to take some best guesses, and it's going to play all these different factors in to try to figure out which ad set is going to perform best for you. And then it's going to start to take some of the budget from the other ad sets and put it towards your highest performing ad sets. Now in theory, this sounds amazing, right? You just give Facebook a ton of data and they're going to give you back the highest performing ad set possible. But like the old saying goes, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And where we run into issues using this strategy is that there may be an ad set that you want to make sure gets a sufficient number of basically views or a sufficient amount of that budget allocated to it. And you don't really want to let Facebook kind of carve things up and make its own decisions before you've had a chance to weigh in. For example, let's say that you've got an ad and an ad set that you just know crushes it across all kinds of different audiences and placements. It doesn't matter where you put it, this ad's a winner. Well, if you nest this in and under the campaign budget optimization strategy, essentially Facebook's going to show it just about as much as any new creative, and it might start diverting more budget and more traffic towards potentially a lower performing ad set. You see, the algorithm's not foolproof, and they're going to be using kind of this learning phase, which is a whole other story for a whole other video, but regardless, they're going to be using these early stage impressions to try to decide which is going to be your best performing ad set so they can spend your budget accordingly. Sometimes they get this right, and you end up with an absolute home run of an ad set. But if they get this wrong, you risk potentially turning off really good performing ads, and that's never good in the long run, right? After all, these ads may not get their fair chance to go out there and try to convert and try to win you more leads, customers, and sales. There's another side of the coin here that we really have to talk about, and this is going to get a little bit more advanced and a little bit more nerdy, so stick with me if this is completely new to you. You see, the way that the Facebook algorithm works is that it needs a sufficient number of conversions or actions on your ad in order to properly optimize it. This is why the old advice of having a number of different ad sets and putting tiny little budgets in each of $5 or $10 really doesn't fly in today's market. You see, with these tiny budgets, you're simply not giving Facebook enough data for them to properly optimize across all the different data points in their algorithm. Now, how this affects us when we're using CBO is that we need to make sure that we're using a sufficiently high budget for that overall campaign structure for us to put a number of different ad sets under it. So, for example, let's say we're using $100 a day. Well, that would probably allow us to use maybe 2 or maybe 3, maybe even 4 different ad sets under it, because they're going to get around that $25 or $30 budget allocated to each, at least initially. On the other hand, if you've got a much smaller budget of, say, $10 a day, maybe $15 a day, well, you're obviously going to want to have probably just one ad set under that initial campaign, because otherwise you're going to be spreading yourself far too thin and you're going to be giving Facebook far too little data for them to properly optimize. This is why when it comes to smaller budgets, it doesn't really matter whether we're using CBO or ad set budget, because we're still probably going to want to have just one campaign, one ad set, and maybe just one ad. After all, we don't have the budget to accurately spread it out and get enough data back. All right, nerdy technical stuff over, let's get back to CBO and how to use it most effectively. Now, when it comes to properly setting up Facebook campaign budget optimization and essentially your campaign structure overall, well, there's going to be differences depending on what type of advertiser you are, how you like to structure your campaigns. But using this new format, you're going to want to keep things relatively structured and relatively organized under that campaign. So for example, let's say you're running a conversion campaign for a lead magnet download. Well, under that campaign, you're going to have a number of different ad sets. The key here is you're going to want to make sure that your ad sets are at least somewhat related in some way, shape, or form, whether it's various audiences or various audience sizes or similar interests or maybe different degrees of lookalike audiences. Whatever it is, it's going to be important here to keep things relatively congruent. Now, this wasn't an issue before when we were using ad set optimization. After all, we could have all kinds of different ad sets and we could target different things and put them in different places. But because we're optimizing at the campaign level, it's important to keep all of these congruent, because that way they're going to get kind of a fair shake and a fair chance at really representing which one's going to be best for your campaign. Another really important point here is on scaling up your CBO campaign. And we kind of touched on this briefly when we were talking about those smaller budgets, but what you're going to do is as you go through CBO and you've got your different ad sets and you've got your different ads nested under that, well, eventually you're going to find a winner. You know, that ad that just has the lowest cost per acquisition and it just dominates everything else. Well, the key here is you're going to want to duplicate that ad and run a single CBO campaign ad set ad combination. Sounds confusing, but stick with me for 1 second. Basically, what you're doing here is you're taking that winning ad and you're going to run that only in a new campaign. So you're going to have a campaign with one ad set and with one ad being that winning ad. And again, what you're doing here is you're taking the power back from Facebook and ensuring adequate distribution of your top performing ad. All right, so let's wrap things up here with some real takeaway and actionable items here. Should you use CBO in your business? And my recommendation here is yes, you should absolutely test it. Meaning you probably shouldn't go through and start switching everything over to CBO from regular ad set optimization, especially if something is already working. So let me make this really clear. If you've got an ad set that is already absolutely crushing it, please do not touch it. Leave it alone, let it keep doing good things for your business. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't duplicate it and test against it using CBO in order to see which one's going to do better for you. Here's the position that I'm taking and that we're taking inside the agency. After looking at essentially dozens of new client accounts every single week, we've pretty much seen it all. And there's no one-size-fits-all answer that we can confidently go out there and say, yeah, you absolutely have to use CBO or definitely not. In fact, we're seeing a pretty even split between campaigns that are doing better using CBO and campaigns that are better doing kind of the old ad set monitoring. All that said, CBO is the way of the future. This is going to be mandatorily enforced. Essentially, everything's going to be switching over to it anyways, so you might as well jump on that one as quick as you can and start to figure out how you're going to optimize your campaigns to best take advantage of this new shift.